Today we'll be talking about CSS. CSS. So yesterday we did some CSS whereby we say style. We now say style, border, 2 pixels, solid gray. This piece of code we wrote here yesterday is called a CSS code, and it is an internal CSS code. So we styled the element yesterday using the CSS style, and that is why we're able to add color to this document. So we added color of blue and border. So that is CSS. So today we'll be doing CSS. Now to get started with the CSS, I want you to open a new file. So let's Control N. When you Control N, click on Control S to save. Make sure you go to your desktop, select the Css Class 2 folder that we did yesterday, or what if it's class 2 folder or class web folder that you are using, anyone you are using, no problem. Select class 2 folder, click on open, then inside the class 2 folder, let's name our second file as page.html. Click on enter, then write HTML, then click on tab to get the HTML structure. So now let's give it a title. Let's give the page a title. So give it CSS beginner. CSS beginner. So now inside our CSS beginner, let's give an h2, call it my first CSS. Now let's view it in our browser. So to view it in your browser, right click, open in browser, and voila, my first CSS. So now we're going to style this thing. This is my first CSS. Now what is styling? Styling is the ability is using CSS to change the look and appearance of any HTML elements. So styling is basically using CSS to change the look and appearance and position of any HTML element. Now, what is CSS? CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. Cascading Style Sheet. And it is used to format web pages. It is used to format the layer of web pages. Now with CSS, you can control the color, the font, the size of the font size, and the spacing between HTML elements. Like if I want to add more space to this thing, I can use CSS to do it. I can use CSS to change the color. With CSS, I can change the background of this content. With CSS, I can display it to either the right or left of the browser. So basically, CSS can manipulate HTML elements to achieve what you want. Almost all websites are built using CSS, including Facebook, Google, gmail.com are all built with CSS. So now let's, like we did yesterday, like we did in the previous class, we did something like style. Then we now say color red or red green, color green. Then let me go to the browser and refresh. You see, voila, we have green color there. Some persons have color blindness. So for those who have color blindness, let me use the blue color that everybody will see. So color blue. If I refresh, voila, my first CSS, we've styled it to blue color. Now, this kind of styling is called internal styling. Internal styling, that's because we are styling it inside the HTML element, inside this H1 HTML element. But HTML, while writing CSS code, we can write it in three different ways. We have the internal styling, the inline styling, and the external styling. We'll get to all of them in a minute. So this is, for now, just know that this is called internal styling. Now you can also change the font size to 12 pixel. So I'm trying to reduce the font size. Now if I refresh, you see, voila, the font size has reduced to 12 pixel. Then you remove it and leave it for the default font size 12 pixel. So let's add a paragraph. Let's add a paragraph. If we have a paragraph like this, P, and then click on type lorem, LEOREM, and then click on tab. When you click on tab, some chunks of code of random word will be generated. This is used to fill up paragraph. You don't want to type much word, so just use that one to save yourself stress. So these are chunks of text, and we're using this paragraph. So you can still do the same thing here, but if you want to style it, change the color. You can still say style, color, let's say light gray. Light gray. You go to your browser, you refresh, voila, the color has changed to light gray. Then if you want to put more space in between the browser, like you want to add more space to the right, to the left, you can just use the padding, let's say 20 for 30 pixel, 30 pixel. Now we have added more space to the left and the right. Now in programming, there are different units of measurement. We have pixel, which is a unit of computer screen. So each dot in a computer screen is called pixel. So 30 pixel means 30 dots. So that's the one unit. Another unit of measurement is EM. Another unit of measurement is percentage. You can use percentage here also. You can change it to percentage. Let's say 30%. If I use 30% now, you see that the difference will be more than this one. To take 30% of the screen from right, 30% of the screen from the left, 30% of the screen from top, and 30% of screen from the bottom. That's because we just specify padding 30%. So if I say 5%, it will take 5% of the screen width. So the padding will take 5% of the screen width. So that's padding. You can even specify padding for only the top. If, if you look at this list now, you see the list of all paddings that you can select from in your Sublime. Sublime will predict the list of all paddings you can select from. So let's say padding top, let's say 400 pixel, making it bold so everybody will see the impact. So the padding top, if I refresh, polar, I've added 400 pixel to the padding top, so I've pushed the text down to the bottom of the page. But let me remove that one. Okay, let me just put it to 20 pixels also. So if I refresh to go back to the top, yeah, better that way. This kind of styling is called inline styling. So to style an HTML element using the inline styling, you just need to write the style attributes and then pass in this value. You can study more on the HTML values So that's for internal styling. This is internal styling. Sorry, inline styling. The next one we're going to look at now is internal styling. Internal styling is a CSS styling method that uses that if you want to style that one, you have to write the style at the head of the document. So any style that is written on the head of the document is called internal styling. So to write an internal style, just write the style tag. So this style tag is now, and it has a type of CSS and text. You can remove it. It's not necessary to have this one. You can remove it. You can still leave it if you still want to. For me, I choose to leave it. So I have the type text. So now to do an internal styling, to do an internal styling in CSS, all you need is the CSS selector, and you can add any of this value. A CSS selector is basically any way you want to target the HTML elements you want to style. So for example, I want to style this P tag now, this P tag. I can just say P and then open and close bracket and say color red. Now if I go to the browser and say color red by styling this P tag, it will not work. The reason it will not work is because inside the P tag we have color already, color light gray, and CSS using what we call cascading method, and the style that you give to the body also affects the 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 content inside. So another method also that CSS uses is that it uses the order method. That means this descending method. That means the code that stays at the bottom of the site, the code that comes last takes higher priority than the code at the top. So for example, if since this one is at the top and this one is under this one, this one will read first. This one will become the style that will be accepted by the browser. Then another priority again that the CSS styling takes is that the internal styling has higher power over the others. So internal styling is the most powerful style. So even if you style p tag at the head of the browser, and you style the same p tag inside the body on the element, the internal style will have more power and will produce results, but the one at the end will not produce results. That's because the internal style has higher priority over the the inline styling has higher priority over the internal styling that is at the head. So let's say we have, so to avoid such mistake, you can just remove the color from this one, and then because you specify p there now, color red now. If you go back to the browser and refresh, you see the color is now red. Then let's assume we have another um, p tag and call this one my second paragraph. So let's add some internal styling by saying style margin top, margin top, let's say 20 pixel. Let's refresh. Wow, we still have my second paragraph is now here. But if you notice, both my second paragraph and my first paragraph has red color, and maybe you don't want that to happen. You don't want red color for both. So how do you do that? Because in your internal style at the top, you said all paragraphs should be red. It will make all paragraph that are displayed on this page to be red. So that is why we can use another CSS selector called the class selector. So a CSS selector is a CSS class selector is used to target HTML elements based on class. This one we did now, we target the element based on element name, which is P H2. You can change it to H2 service to still target only the H2. So instead of and this H2 will not change because, like we explained before, the inline styling is overriding the internal styling. So that's it. So let's say P tag there. So to like we are talking about, you want to make one of the paragraph to be black while the other one to be red. Instead of using paragraph selector like this to select the whole paragraph, you can give it you can give this paragraph a class attribute. So class attribute I use to style the HTML element. So this is my second paragraph now. Let's call it second. So copy second. I have a class here of second and a value of sorry, I have a class here attribute and a value of second. Now go to your style to change the color. Now you just put dots. Since it's a class name, you put dot second, you put the name, and then you type whatever you want to type. I want to style it, you just style it. So let's say color blue, color blue. So let me refresh. The one I give color blue now has changed to blue while the paragraph is still red. So that's how to target it. So the best practice to use class to style your in fact nearly all HTML styles that you'll be seeing when checking people's code, you'll be seeing the word class. That's because they use the class to style that HTML element. So basically, when you see class, the class is used to style the HTML element. So to access the class, all you just need to do is to put dot class name. So the selector is the class name, the second, which is this second that is here. That's the selector. We're using it to select this paragraph now. This paragraph. We're using it to select this paragraph. That's why it's called selector. Then we now have what we call the property, a property of color and a value of blue. So this is called for HTML syntax. This is called the selector. This is called the property, and this is called the value. So the property is color and the value is blue. Let's say we want to add font size of 20 pixel. If we go to your browser now and refresh, voila, font size has increased. So that's how to style at the top on the internal styling at the top of the document. So you can play with like let's say we want to change the font look. Another way we can font size, we can still change the font family. The font family property is used to change how the font will look like. So let's say if we want to use sans serif, you can just take the font family there, we refresh. The font has changed a little bit. If you notice if the font has changed, you can take the video backward. You notice that the font has changed to another one. That is because we use the font family. So to comment in CSS, all you just need to do is to put your cursor on the line you want to comment, and then click on Control question mark if you are using Windows. Control question mark on your subline, it will comment that one. So you see the previous fonts that we are using. The previous fonts that we are using. My second paragraph. So if you want to manually comment it, you can just use forward slash then or this star, and then you close it again at the end with star backward. That's to comment it. Like we said before, comments are used to remove like code that you don't want the browser to read. You can just comment it out. You can use it to explain your code or the reason why you use the code. So basically, comments are used to give more information about the script you are writing. So that's comment for you. Or maybe, for example, you don't want the code to run. You don't want that code to be executed on the browser. You can just comment it by using forward slash star and then close it with star forward slash. That's how to comment in CSS. So what? So let me add the comment again. Let me add that font size again. Font family. Font family sans serif. There are lots of fonts, hundreds of fonts, thousands of fonts you can choose from. You can browse fonts on Google. Just check the name of the font on Google, and that's all. So another way you can get fonts, just type on Google now and search on list of fonts. Google will just produce list of fonts for you, and you can use them. So let's say I want to use Arial. Arial. Start to spell the Arial. Okay. So, or let's say I want to use Vada. Vadana. Okay, this is another font family you can use. By default, the browsers are built to understand, to know the font you are using. So if your browser supports that font, it will display that font for you. But if your browser does not support it, it will not have any error. It will just use the default font. So that's how to do the internal styling. So the selector, you put the selector for the first one. We use the selector as a p tag. We just start the p tag, so all p tag will be affected. And for the second one, we use class, so only elements that has that class will be affected. Like this class now, this paragraph has that class, it will be affected. So let's assume we have another paragraph now. Let's say I have another paragraph and call it second, third paragraph, third paragraph. You go to your browser and refresh. it will still be red. That's because you told the browser to display all paragraph as red. So to change the color, you just need to put the class and put the same class that you used to change the color to blue. If you want to change the color to blue, you can just put the same class that you used for the first one. It will still work. Both will turn to blue. Both will turn to blue. However, if you want to change the color of another thing, you can just hit thread and then copy this thread line. Since it's a class, you come here and put dot your third and say color black. So I should put the third here too. Color color black is not working. Why? Let's see why. Class. Say class third. Then come here. Class third. Clear black. Okay, I said clear black, not clear black. It's supposed to be color black. Clear color black, not clear black. So that's it. The color is not black. The paragraph. So assuming you have this copy, you style this P color red, and so assuming you have this P color red and you style it like that, and you have the color red for paragraph that will affect your paragraph, and then maybe you now come down here and paste this one and change the color now to black. The color of the paragraph will not change to black. The reason is because, like I said before, the CSS uses order method, so the code at the bottom will have more priority over the code at the top. Although you declare the color of P as red on the top, because you have changed the color of P to black, it will ignore the color red that you first of all assigned to it. That is how it is for all CSS style. So any CSS style you are using, unless you have a reason to override it, don't override them, don't redeclare them, else it will override them. So another thing we learn in CSS again is the external styling. So to do an external style for CSS, all you just need to do is to Control N. When you Control N now, Control Save. So inside our GS class 2 folder, you right click on this place now on the window, click on New. For those using Windows, click on New and click on Folders. Click on Folders and name the folder CSS. Name the folder CSS. So inside the CSS folder, double click on the CSS folder, then type the name of the CSS. Just say style, style dot css, style dot css. So all CSS external CSS file should be saved as .css. Please take note, you should save your CSS style as .css. The name can be any name, but the extension should be .css. So you save it as .css. Now press save. Now inside the style, you can start writing CSS code. So all the CSS code we wrote at the top here now, you can copy them, bring them to this place and paste. Please do not include the style tag. Do not include the style tag. Do not include the style tag. So if you notice, we just paste the code there. This style tag that we use, we didn't include it. That's because the document is already a CSS document, so you don't need to specify. You rewrite style tag inside again. It will cause an error. So to link CSS, external CSS to your browser, to this page, because now if you remove all of this code, if you comment this code out, for example now, and refresh, you see that we've lost all the color for this body. Now if you go to your CSS file and press save, it will not work. If you even refresh, the body will not change color. The reason is because we've not linked it. So to link it, you just need to use the link tag. There's a link tag like this, so you just need to press link. So inside the href attribute, you need to, like we said before, the href attribute will show you the location of the file. So inside the href attribute, you need to put the location of the file, where the file is located in the browser. So where is it located? It's located in our CSS folder. And inside the CSS folder, what's the name of it? Look at your Sublime. Inside the CSS folder here, you see inside our folder here, we have the name is style.css. So we write the name here, style.css. So style.css, we'll save, Ctrl S. So if we come back to the browser and refresh, voila, our style is back. So that's how to use external style. So we've successfully used the three type of style. So let's assume you comment this code back by removing this comment, and then you change. Let's remove this. Let's turn this paragraph, instead of red, let's use yellow. Let's use yellow for the paragraph. Now if you check your external style, we still have paragraph P tag as red, color red, and even the one we wrote here, color black. We override the color red to color black, but in our head style we change the color to yellow. If you refresh now, you see that the color of this place has changed to yellow, although the external link is still present in the web page. It will not read. The reason is because external file takes less priority. This internal file follows suit, while the inline takes the higher priority. So the browser will first of all read the all other one and end with the inline. And the one that the browser ends with, that's the one that will be executed. So the browser first of all reads external file. When you open your web page, the browser will first of all read the external file, and when you finish reading the external file, it will now read the internal file, the internal style. After reading the internal style, it will now read all inline styles. So it will settle for the last one, which is the inline style. So all other styles will be neglected and the inline style will be accepted. Same thing with the external and the internal. The internal will be accepted and the external will be neglected if you override your code. If you override your code by any means. So that's it. That's that for that. So another thing you should take note of is when writing your your style. You see this place we wrote font size here. You should not put space in between the font size. It will not work. So this one that we did font size 20 pixel, this paragraph. If I refresh it now, it will not work. If I save now and refresh. Okay. The reason it didn't work is because we've already specified it inside the browser. It's a second. So for good practice, if I don't put space between the students, because sometimes you break your code, the browser might not understand it. Sometimes some browsers are intelligent, like Chrome browser, they are intelligent, they still know what you want to do. But browser like Internet Explorer will just break your code, it will not work. Like this crap that is here, it will just break your code, it will not work. So let's leave it at that. So like also this sans serif that is here and this font size family that is here. Don't don't put space in between them. You can only put space after your colon. You can put one space after your colon. Don't put space in between the value. So another thing we can do again is background. So let's assume we want to change the background of this paragraph, this Lauren paragraph. Let's add a class to it. Let's call it the main underscore p paragraph. Main paragraph, for example. Now we'll be working with our external file. So let's come to the external file and put dot. Since it's a class, you put dot and curly bracket, curly braces. Then you put, let's say, background. This is called hexadecimal color. If you're using hexadecimal color, I'll put a link in the description below where you can share for hexadecimal colors. So you study assignment of for you people is that you study HTML and CSS colors all the CSS color, how to write the CSS color, just study it. There are different ways you can write it. We have the RGBA, the hexadecimal color, and the name color. So name color is when you just write black here. Let's see, you just write black here. That's name color. But let me use hexadecimal color. Hexadecimal color is just put hash and then the decimal number 000 stands for black. So if you refresh now, you see our color, our background is now black. So that's CSS. Then you can add border. You can add border to that this thing. There's a border. The border has the value of the size of the border, 3 pixel, the type of border you want, solid. You can use solid, and which color? Let's say red, or let's say the yellow. Always end with a semicolon. Always close your CSS. So we have border now. So for CSS border, there are different type of CSS border. So let's assume we have a p tag like this. Then I have border 1. So let me just copy and duplicate. So let's say this one is border 2, border 3, border 4, border 5. So let's give each of them a class of border 1, let's go 1. So copy this class and make it work faster for myself. So I have to just change this now to 2. Three, 4, 5. So we have border 1, border 2, border 3, border 4, border 5. So we collect the class now and copy the class for border 1. Go to your external style. Go to the next line. Your dot, your selector, which is your class selector. Paste the border name. Then, or you can type if you want to. Then let's say you have border 3 pixel solid. Let's say blue. Then let's copy this code now and put another border type. Okay, so this is border 2, border 3, border 4, border 5. So we can add different value to it. So the first one is solid. Border 1 we say solid blue. The second one we can change the value to dotted. The third one we can change the value to double. For the one of double, I'll change the pixel to 6 pixel. Then we have groove. Groove with double O. And we have dash. So these are the values you can pass. So for border property, the border property has the value of solid, dotted, double, groove. You can browse them. You are online. We'll give you a link to in the description below. So you see, you have different kind of border now. So anyone you want, you can just select. For the borders, for the border, you can change the color. The color, you can just change the color of the text. Let's say color to black. Change the color to black. Add the black color to all of them. And then save. So we have black color for all of them. But if you don't want to be adding black color to all of them, you just want to write the black color once, because sometimes it's kind of messy repeating yourself, repeating code, because when you're writing code you always want to keep your code dry. That means do not repeat yourself. So any way possible you can reduce your lines of code, it's best to try to reduce your lines of code. So if you don't want to write all of them putting blah color, you can just use this method by using, you just remove, let me comment at all the color black, because I'll drop the code in the description below so you can make reference to it. I remove all the black color, refresh, the color has changed back to yellow. That's because we declared the paragraph as yellow color. So now you can give it another class. You can give it another class and say black dot black color, for example, and you come here and say color black. So this dot black color, now you can copy it and go to your HTML. To add more than one class name, you just have to put space, then paste the class name. Put space, 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 paste the class name. That's how you add more than one class name. So if you refresh now, the color will be black, it will affect it. That's one way to write it. Another way you can write it also, you can decide to put all the class together. So let's say you want to style, okay, that's that for that. Let me not bother you with that for now. So another thing you can do is, for example, you want all of them to have padding of 20 pixel. You want all of them to have padding of 20 pixel. You can go to your external style by clicking on style. Instead of putting padding in all of them 20 pixel, you can just copy your class name. Copy this first class name, class 1, then come down here, you paste it, you put comma, you paste, then change it to 2. You put under comma, change it to 3. So with comma you can change you can target multiple class together by just putting command. Then that's 5. So by putting command, you can just target all of them together. So you can just say padding 20 pixels. Then put your closed column, semicolon. Then you can say margin top 20 pixels. So when you go to your browser now and refresh, yeah, it affected all of them. So we have different borders, and we've styled all of them using this method of styling by just adding comma. Should you want to remove anyone, you don't want to follow the same pattern, you can just remove that one. Let's say I've removed theory now. If I refresh, theory has gone back to the default style. So that's how to style your code with external style. So we'll still continue with CSS code, but for now we'll stop at from here. We'll stop here. I'll give you assignments that you work on, and the assignment is you are going to study CSS margin, CSS padding, CSS height. So assignment H1. So let's say the assignment will be the assignment will be CSS border, CSS margin, and this one is CSS padding. We've done CSS padding before, but I want you to practice it more. CSS height and width. CSS height and CSS width. CSS color. CSS color. The different type of color. I want you to study them. Then study. Let me see if this is enough. Assignment. Okay, let me see as so okay. What should I add again? CSS tables. CSS table. So that's what I wanted to learn. That's all for this class.